Hello, how are you, Bashar?
Perfect.
So
And
great.
you?
I'm so grateful to be in contact with you right now.
It is our
Uh,
passion and our pleasure to speak with you as well. What would you like to discuss?
as we know, open contact will happen within 5 years. Are we going to have a certain feeling in our energy in the day of the open contact?
Yes, of course you will. But that depends on what it is you bring to the experience.
For example, for someone that really cleared their energy and they worked with themselves by that time. How would they feel? How would be the energy in that day? Because I feel like it will be kind of a particular feeling of that
Well,
moment or that day.
again, it depends on the person, but in general, you may find that your heart will swell with relief and release and love. You may have tears flowing from your eyes. You may experience a great deal of ecstasy or elation or feel almost like you're floating. It can be different for different people. Some people will feel even more grounded, more connected to nature. Some people may feel that their prayers have been answered, so to speak. Some people may feel the potential of the challenges that await you in the future that will expand humanity beyond your imagination. You can feel it in a number of different ways, from exposure to the vibration of the extraterrestrials that will be first introduced to your society. Some of you may receive telepathic contacts. You may find your mind opening up and clarity as you drop all of the negative and fear-based beliefs that you've been holding on to. Some of you may find it a little more challenging to deal with those things, and some of you may not experience contact at all, depending upon the belief systems you brought to the experience. So again, it depends upon the different individuals. But for those who have cleared out most of their ideas of negative beliefs, fear-based beliefs, for those who are willing to open up, you may experience some of the things that we have already just described.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Um, did the bird phoenix exist, or is just a myth in our history? In Arabic language, phoenix bird translates as Anka, as my name is Anka. Could my name be related to this energy or and its meanings?
Well, to some degree, yes, because the Ankh or Anka, as the channel's name is also, is the idea of eternal life, eternal rebirth. It is connected to the concept of reincarnation, that experience. It is not literally a real animal, except in the idea of the astral realm and the higher levels of existence. But the idea is that it is not something that existed physically on your planet, but is an interpretive symbol in the collective consciousness. It is an archetypal representation of the idea that you are eternal, that your life is eternal, that you will always have another chance, that there is always an opportunity for rebirth.
Does it have to do also with the Cygnus star system?
To some degree, not directly, but there is a peripheral connection we will not go into right now.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Where our spirit guides are situated while our body is within our soul, and we're directly connected to our higher self, that is our prime guide.
We're not sure what you're asking.
So we are within our soul, right?
Yes.
With our bodies, all right?
And the spirit guides are their own souls.
Okay, because I'm a bit confused because I know I am connected directly to my higher self.
Well, your higher self is your soul.
Yes. Then the spirit guides are their own souls. Okay, yes,
Yes.
all right. Yes.
And you vibrationally communicate.
Vibrationally communicate, and they helping in from that perspective. Okay.
Yes, your spirit guides, your soul family, angelic beings, a lot of beings. Every person has a large team of beings that are helping you.
Yes, yes, that's amazing. Does the spirit side extend above 5D?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What kind of consciousness resides, in the sixth, seventh, so 4 dimensions.
Not easy to describe in your language.
Yeah, I figure because I know there is a lot of, I mean, endless consciousnesses that expand above these dimensions.
I mean,
But probably I wouldn't understand.
I could use a very, very simplistic analogy.
Yeah.
Imagine right now that you are looking at a TV screen. Yes?
Yes.
Now imagine that you have 100 TV screens in front of you and that you're able to understand every single program on every single screen simultaneously. Can you do that in your
Yes.
imagination?
Yeah.
Now imagine that every single TV screen has another TV screen and another TV screen and another TV screen, and it goes on to infinity. And you can understand all of those and perceive all of those simultaneously. And each of them represents a completely different reality, a different timeline, a different universe. And you understand all of that simultaneously.
That would go to the source perspective, like watching
Yes, but even then, the source can have the idea of other sources that are also part of the source, which can then have the idea of other the sources that can go to the idea of the source, and on and on and on. It never ends.
Yes, it's just amazing. It's just unimaginable. One more question I have. Does Earth have guardians with rules and regulations?
Are you saying, does it have guardians?
Yeah, guardians with rules and regulations.
There are very few. One of the ideas you may be calling a rule was that you are left to your own devices and that there is no interference allowed in certain aspects of your evolution. Things must be left to you to decide. There are a few exceptions to that, but they're very rare.
Okay, thank you so much for your interactions today, and have a great day ahead. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hi there. This question is also regarding an experience I had during my cryptic meditations by the river. I began to be able to perceive into the dimensions of my parallel reality counterparts. I could see what was going on, and as this was happening, I got the name Holly Cotton whispered into my ear, and then I felt Holly Cotton's consciousness move into my energy fields and then into my body. I understand that Willa Hillikrissing has mentioned Holly Cotton before, so I wanted to ask why this would happen, why I've had a visitation by Holly's consciousness, and what I can do with this, what potentials there are, and how I can act on this if I choose to. Thank you.
Holly Cotton, being Willa's mentor, infuses her consciousness within all who seek to be a cryptic. It's not that there aren't other mentors as well, but this is the one you are familiar with because of the introduction of Willa Hillikrissing's energy through this channel. So you're going to gravitate more likely to the mentor for Willa, which is Holly Cotton. The idea is that you are beginning to experience the connection from the cryptic level to the nocturnal level, which is usually represented by the awareness of parallel realities. So you are taking advantage of the vibration of the consciousness, the frequency of the consciousness of Willa's mentor to help accelerate you in your process of going from cryptic to nocturnal.
Good day. Hello. Thank you so much.
It is our passion and our pleasure. What would you like to discuss?
I'd love to know more about your personal art, if you're willing to share. Have in my head that you sculpt kind of with a liquid crystal, not quite, but kind of.
Yes.
So is there any like recent projects that would be exciting to share about?
Yes. We have created recently a large latticework sphere in which is contained an atmosphere that, when entered, allows individuals to experience different aspects of reality that reflects to them what they most need to understand to move forward on their path. It is like looking, in a sense, into a crystal ball, but it is like being inside the crystal ball.
That's so cool. Is that a collective idea, or how did that happen?
As you asked, I sculpted it. But it is connected telepathically to my entire civilization. So it is both a personal art project and expression and a collective one, because it represents what the collective would like to create, though it is done through individuals. This is done mostly as a tool of first contact for certain civilizations who need to see things in certain ways, who are already part of what you might call the interstellar alliance, but have to relate to interacting with us in a certain way. So we create this for them.
That's so cool. So can you expand on that in terms of how it relates to your ships? Because I think you said your ships also are created from the same type of crystalline matter. And it just makes me wonder, right? Like you mentioned that there would be no dashboard if we went in there because it's about your higher self and interacting
Yes,
with that.
it's a slightly
So
different kind of material, though the principles are similar. But it represents the idea of a solidification or physicalization of our soul, of our higher mind. And that's why there is a telepathic connection. Because in a sense, the ship is us.
That's so cool. So what does like if I were able to go in there, what would I see? Like you don't eat, so you don't need a kitchen, you don't sleep, so you don't need a bed. So what determines like the size, the shape, the design of the inside of your ship?
Many different things. Primarily, it would seem like an unbroken, seamless form, either circular, maybe triangular, maybe hexagonal, in terms of the smaller ships. You might see a power pole from floor to ceiling in the center, but again, out of the same basic crystalline material that channels certain forms of energy through the ship. You might see a wall that can suddenly become transparent to function as a window, but again, all of this is done by mind. You might see certain things like chairs, if they protrude from the floor, if they are needed, but if not needed, will recess back into the floor or the walls. So the ship is very malleable and responsive to our needs by producing the things out of the crystalline material that are needed in the moment they are needed and disappearing when they are not.
So cool. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'd like to know more about Anima and her role. Maybe if you want to share anything about like your relationship with her, what social engineering means.
Well, social engineering is basically a way of saying learning planetary management on all different levels, sociologically, politically, economically, spiritually, so on and so forth. So the social engineers will come after the first contact specialists like myself, and that's why we work closely with social engineers and why Anima is my colleague in that way. So after the idea of open contact, then the social engineers will be available to humanity to help you understand how to manage an entire planet more efficiently for the benefit of all.
So
All of its resources, in other words.
So how might, if I'm still around when she's here, how might I play with her or interact with her in the future?
Well, again, it depends upon your particular penchant for understanding the idea of balance and understanding how there is the principle that there is enough for everyone if distributed properly. That the idea of borders and barriers no longer really exists. It's all about the idea of proportional disbursement, of understanding the value of the resources you have, how to manage them most efficiently, and how to understand that there is enough for all.
Wow, very cool. And then lastly, I have been following my highest excitement. It's been really fun. And I am in a business now where I use hypnotherapy to help people reveal and transform negative beliefs. It's very exciting work for me. It's based on the idea that when we're little, we run in theta. And so we lay down a bunch of beliefs without a filter at that point. And so the work that we do brings the brain back to theta and reveals things that are no longer serving people anymore. Is there any information that you can give me that would make it more powerful for my clients so that we could tweak the process in any way that would make it more helpful or more effective?
Well, if they're willing to go into gamma first, that can help them unlock a few things that will make it easier to go into the theta level where the work can be done.
Oh. And can I guide that?
Yes, of course.
How would I do that?
Well, there are many different opportunities on your internet for understanding the vibration of gamma between 40 and 100 cycles per second. You can use different techniques, biofeedback, or even an auditory signal that is in the gamma range to put them in a certain state of association and information processing that is more efficient so that they can take that with them down into the theta state in order to process the information that you are directing their attention to.
The brain tells us where to go. Is
Yes.
that what's really happening?
Yes.
Okay.
But it depends on the state of the brain. And that way, by putting them in gamma first, which is the channeling state, it's like they are taking a submersible vehicle down into different levels where they will have an easier time of processing the information that they find there.
So that could be something as simple as listening to one of those frequency recordings before we start the process?
It can be. Different things will work for different people. You'll figure it out.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it all, and I appreciate you very much.
Our deep appreciation to you and unconditional love to you as well. Aveo.
Thank you, Abeo.
Hello, Bashar. I could have sworn that at one time in the transmission, you said that the reptilians feel somewhat slighted because we have that wiring in our brains that causes us to immediately go into fear when we're around reptiles or reptilians. And I seem to be the only person who remembers you saying that. And then I thought, well, maybe I dreamt it. So could you please tell me whether or not that's true? Thank you so much.
Yes. Your reaction to the vibration of the reptilians causes a reaction in them that makes some of them not necessarily care for humanity very much because of humanity's reaction in the primitive brain of humanity, in the mammalian brain of humanity, to the idea of a reptile. So you're kind of at odds with one another. Not all reptilians feel the same way. Most of them actually ignore humanity. But there are those who have a little bit of a resentment toward humanity because of humanity's reaction to them. They feel slighted in that sense. Good day, good day.
How are you doing?
Perfect, and you?
Good. I wanted to ask you, what is the secret of the universe?
That you are completely empowered, that you have the greatest power to choose, that you determine your life path, that you create your reality, that you are an aspect of all that is, experiencing itself through what appears to be an aspect of itself.
Okay. I understand. How do I activate the dormant abilities in my heart?
By following the formula.
Is this the only way?
It is not the only way, but it is the way that is most efficient, which is why we give it to you, so you don't have to overthink it or overcomplicate it. It includes every possible process that you have decided to experience on your life path. So if you want to be efficient, use the formula. If you want to take a longer route, that's up to you.
No, I'll skip the longer route.
All right.
Um, 1 second. Who was the person in my room not too long ago? I think it was an ET, but I'm not sure.
What did you experience?
There was a person next to me, and they were making eye contact with me, and suddenly, like, I sort of blacked out for a minute.
It may have been an ET connection, but it also may have been a member of your soul family.
Okay. I just didn't recognize that type of physique. It didn't seem human to me.
Well, remember that spirits are not any longer human, and they will take different forms that are necessary to perhaps reach you in the state that you're in. And there can be distortions of your perception of what they actually are because of the difference between their vibration and yours.
Oh, okay, so my mind can create this mask of what they are in my mind?
Yes, because of what it is you believe that you would experience when exposed to that energy. Whatever it is that needs to be a symbol that helps you realize that something is attempting to connect to you, to contact you, to get a message through, to say, I am here, and allow you to interpret it in whatever way makes sense to your physical mind.
Okay. What are the ships that are near my house that consistently seem to fly there?
Well, there are different ones at different times. There's a lot of traffic around your planet, but the vast majority of them are probably Pleiadian.
Are they trying to get my attention, or are they just doing what they're doing?
Well, it's not so much that they're trying to get your attention. They are observing whether or not you are able to pay attention to the fact that they're there.
Okay. How would I know, per se, if I was in my room, if they were telepathically contacting me?
It would be obvious. You wouldn't even have to ask the question.
Okay.
Is it obvious that I am speaking to you now?
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
It would be that obvious.
Okay, I understand. How do I get specific entities to stop touching me?
Why do you believe that entities are touching you?
I feel something touching me.
Can they not be members of your soul family reaching out to you to let you know they are there?
I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
It doesn't feel very positive to me.
What is it that you are afraid of in life?
Um, I guess just being myself to the fullest extent.
And why is that something you are afraid of? What do you think will happen if you are yourself to the fullest extent?
I guess in the past where I tried, especially when I was a child, there was a lot of negativity.
All right. But that's what's touching you, is your own negativity. It's attempting from your soul family to point out that you still have these fears and haven't yet let them go. Nothing bad will happen if you are your true self. That's just the negative and fear-based belief telling you a story to prevent you from letting it go and moving forward. So in a sense, the touching is to point out that you still have fears, and that's why it's uncomfortable for you. They're attempting to get you to face those fears and let them go. They're pointing them out to you. So if you want them to stop touching you, You have to let go of your fears.
Okay.
Then they will have no
Um,
reason to point them out to you.
Is
But
there
it's
a different
done.
way that they can
It's
point
being
that out
done.
to me?
It's being done out of love. It's your life path. You ask them to remind you that you have these fears and this is your challenge, and that you ask them to help you get in touch with them so that you could find out what these belief systems are that don't work for you and let them go. So they're just doing what you ask them to do. You just don't remember that.
Okay. I'm gonna have to process that, but that's all
All
I
right.
had to ask you.
All right. Then sweet dreams to you.
Thank you. And thanks
Ave.
so much.
You are welcome.
Hello again, Bashar. Gunnar calling from Norway again. I have a question for you. First of all, thank you for all the fantastic information that you give us. I have a question. I have a daughter which is 16 years old, and she is a very independent young lady. She has her own opinion and is sometimes I wonder if she is from another planet or is she, or am I just imagining it? Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for all the good stuff you gave us. Bye.
She is not from another planet, but you all have connections to other civilizations. So the idea is that you may be picking up on the fact that being a member of a new generation that is literally a new species with slightly different DNA, she feels like an alien or an ET. But she is an accelerated human with more evidence energetically of her connections to other extraterrestrial civilizations. But this is what the future human is like, is all about.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Special Valentine's greetings to you since we're in our month of February.
All right. Happy Valentine's to you as well.
I'd like to discuss an experience that I had recently.
Yes.
It was early October last year, very early morning, sometime around 3 a.m. I had gotten out of bed and wandered into my bathroom. I just sort of stood there for a moment. I was listening near the bathroom door, and it was like I was in a trance. And then I noticed something in the hallway just outside the bathroom door. It was only 2 or 3 feet away from me. It looked like a little cloud of swirling greenish mist. And I seemed to sense just the most vague outline of a humanoid figure, maybe just
Yes.
barely 5 feet tall. And I spoke to him and stepped towards him. I held out my arms. And then I felt a very strong, quite lovely sensation entering the top of my head. It was pleasantly overwhelming. I felt like I was being swept up. And the next thing I knew, I was laying in bed. And the moment I realized I was back in my bed, the quality of the experience felt more like my normal reality. And the being was still with me at my bedside. He said something to me. I couldn't make out what he was saying because his voice sounded garbled. I was not able to clearly see him. I could only hear and feel his presence. I felt some more strong sensations in my energy field, not unpleasant. I said a few words to him, and then he left.
Yes.
And I would like to know, the first portion of the experience had a different quality than the second portion. It was more trance-like. What caused the trance-like state that I experienced at first?
Exposure to a higher frequency vibration. It is kind of a reset that you asked for and were given. It kind of resets you to put you on your path a little bit more clearly.
And was I caused to enter that state, or did I cause myself to enter that state?
Well, both. You asked for assistance, it was given.
Why did the being appear as a mist, and why was the mist greenish in color?
Has to do with the heart. the opening of the heart. Again, an interpretation in your physical reality of the energy that you were interacting with, the consciousness you were interacting with. Remember that things coming from one dimension, one reality to another, as an apparition, are not always solid looking. They may maintain themselves to a higher frequency, which doesn't necessarily allow them to coalesce into something that you would recognize as physical, because it doesn't serve the purpose to do so. They can distribute energy to you more efficiently by remaining a little bit closer to their natural, non-physical, energetic state.
What exactly caused the strong sensations in my energy field, and how am I able to experience sensations outside my physical body since I don't have any nerves there?
It's not about nerves. It's about the fact that your soul, in a sense, extends beyond your body. Your electric field extends beyond your body. It's about the idea of your electric field matching the frequency of what you are being offered by another being. So there is contact before there is contact. There is a lot of contact vibrationally and energetically before anything ever touches your physical form.
Was my response to the being unexpected? Was the being surprised that I noticed him?
Not surprised, but delighted.
And if I had not spoken to him and held out my arms, would he have interacted with me?
Probably would have backed off until you were more ready.
What caused the gap in my memory, and what happened during the gap?
Again, this is about the idea of resetting your energy, resetting your consciousness to make your path a little bit more clear to you as you move forward in life. The idea of forgetting is so that you can focus on your life rather than remember the incident per se.
When I was placed back in my bed and the being spoke to me, why did his voice, well, you kind of explained this before.
Yes, coming through a different
voice...
dimensional level, it's not necessarily going to sound clear to your physical mind. It's going to appear garbled because it's coming from another level. Imagine if someone was speaking to you from underwater. It wouldn't sound clear because there's a density difference between your reality in the air and the reality in the water. So, similar idea.
Can you tell me what he said to me?
He told you to go to sleep now, absorb what you have been taught, and wake up refreshed and as a new person, knowing that your path is clearer for you in the way ahead. You are surrounded by love. You are helped by guides. You are never alone. Know that and take that into your heart. Move forward in your life.
The being interacted with my energy field a couple more times.
You're doing a good job. And thank you for the job that you are doing, was the rest of the message.
I see. And when he touched my energy field a couple more times just before he left, why did he do this?
Just checking to make sure everything was balanced properly. Kind of like a little checkup. Okay, that went well.
And so, was there something specific he was looking for in the interaction? Any more reason as to why he came? At my request?
Well, on a different level, yes. And again, knowing that that being is doing its job well as well, being a guide for you. So that's what that being is getting out of it. The joy and the happiness and the fulfillment of being a guide for you in a way that works for you.
I get the sense he's not an ET, so
not
he's
exactly,
not...
no. There's a lot of similarity between the idea of spirits and ETs on a certain level. Hard to tell the difference at that level, but no, not exactly. It's more the idea of a guide.
So there's no civilization that he's coming from, or...
Well, if you want to call the spirit realm a civilization, you can.
I see.
Because it is its own reality. It is its own realm. It is its own world.
Does this being have a name or a symbol that can act as a phone number?
Well, the idea of the green mist can be that way if you want to hold the imagination and the visualization of it. That can act as a connecting symbol.
I understand.
Or if you wish, the image of a green heart.
Thank you. Bashar, I want to thank you for connecting with me today.
It is our passion and our pleasure, and probably the result of the interaction you had with that other being.
Understood. Thank you.
Aveo.
Bye.
Hi, Bashar and Darryl. My name is Angela, and I am 46. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. And when I was a child, about 5 years old, I had a very frightening experience in my second floor bathroom. I was answering the call of nature, and when I was finished, I stood up and I looked out my window, and there was a being on the other side looking at me, and it was very terrifying for me as a little kid. The color of their skin was green, but I don't remember which shade. And the first thought in my mind was, this was some kind of goblin. I shut my eyes very tight, and when I looked again, it was gone. It was very vivid. It was not my imagination, and I never told anybody about it because I didn't think anybody would believe me. I'd really appreciate if you could tell me who or what that being was. Thank you so much.
It was a type of extraterrestrial that is relatively rare in terms of its visitations to your planet. We cannot necessarily go into a lot of detail about that particular extraterrestrial species at this time. They will eventually be introduced to your society when open contact occurs. But there are those who from time to time will visit Earth and sort of observe and peer in to understand humanity. And they will be attracted sometimes to the idea of children because children are so open energetically and consciously to the idea of other dimensions and other realms.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We've got lots of great questions from our viewers.
All right.
Okay, so I will begin. Does AI have anything to do with ETs coming to Earth? And are you here to help parent it?
To some degree, extraterrestrials, when open contact occurs, will help guide the idea of the creation of AI to the benefit of humanity, yes.
Okay. And why does the U.S. get all the action when it comes to UFOs and Bigfoot sightings? This person lives in Eastern Europe, and despite being very excited, they are not either vibrationally compatible or something because they're not having as much action as we are over here in the U.S.
This is a fallacy. There is a lot of action around the world. And in fact, the most active place on the planet with regard to UFO sightings is in Scotland. So the idea is that there's a particular portal there that allows for the coming and going of a lot of UFO traffic. The idea that there may seem to be many more sightings in the United States has a lot to do with the denial of their existence rather than the acceptance of their existence. There are many sightings in Europe, many sightings in Asia, many sightings in Australia, many sightings around the world. It's just a matter of how they're reported or if they're reported. So it is a fallacy that the United States has more sightings than anywhere else. It is just a matter of whether or not they are reported.
And this question is, how will we receive the downloads of our human history? Will it be telepathic or by forms of visual media?
You will receive holograms.
Can you elaborate?
You will receive devices in which holographic projections will illustrate the idea of your history, will project the idea of images holographically from your history.
Sounds pretty exciting.
Yes.
Okay, this is an economic question. This person is asking, economies of Western countries depend on consumption that is very often wasteful and unnecessary. Is there any other way to maintain a strong economy? And is it justifiable that within one society we have such an extreme difference in standard of living?
Again, the idea is that eventually your economy will be based on the people themselves, on skills and abilities. That synchronicity will allow you to come together to share with those that need it. So first and foremost, you will transform your economy into a kind of digital currency, not cryptocurrency, but another form of digital currency. And then eventually you will not need the idea of any artificial exchange. You will allow synchronicity to be what organizes your society in a variety of different ways that will bring what you need to those that need it. This is decades in the future, but it will transform before then into, again, a variety of more balanced ways of exchange having to do with digital currency.
Okay, and while you answered this in the monologue, you may want to elaborate. This person is asking, will you give us some mental and physical strategies to thrive in the midst of the current chaos?
We address the idea that underlying what appears to be chaos, there are patterns that you can search for, but on another level. Understand this is the concept of the swing of the pendulum, going to extremes on your planet. It is about eliminating the idea of responding and reacting with extremism. It is about staying closer to the center. So the idea is to know that the degree of extreme chaos that exists on your planet is to generate a response and a reaction that will bring you back closer to the center rather than going to the opposite extreme next time. So it is all about how much chaos can you take? How much disruption can you take? How much are you willing to abide by until you finally start to make choices that will bring you back to a more balanced and central place in your response to things and your ability to solve situations on your planet in a more balanced way. So you are being given an extreme experience of chaos so that you can understand how to respond to that in a way that will bring you more back, more closer to the idea of a positive, centered, and balanced situation when you've had enough of the chaos.
And then on a personal level, it would be the idea that you'd stay in a positive state or at least go into a neutral state if things are happening that are not your preference.
Yes, of course, because then you will get the benefit out of it. You will be able to have the inspirations to create the scenarios and take the actions necessary to bring your society back into a more balanced and central state rather than going to the opposite extreme, as is common on your planet at this point. Usually you meet one extreme with another extreme instead of going back to the center and balancing yourselves. This is an opportunity to be tired of extremes on both ends, and the idea of then creating a more balanced and reasonable state of being in your society throughout.
And the idea of taking the high road, that's a saying they have on
Yes.
Earth, and the idea that the temptation is to go into an extreme state, that's basically what you're saying, right? That
Yes. The idea is that you usually have a pendulum swing going from one side to the other. It's important to allow the pendulum to hang straight down into the center, to be in a balanced state and swing very little instead of going to the extremes on both ends, which serves you not at all.
okay. And no matter how bad things seem to look, is contact still a possibility? This person is asking.
Contact, as we have said, is inevitable. It is just a matter of the style of the contact, the way in which it's going to occur based on what's going on your planet. But contact at this point within the next 5 years is inevitable. For one reason or another, it will happen. But the way it happens will be different depending on what's going on your planet.
Okay, and this is sort of along those lines. Does it mean any and all people I can visually perceive now in all different splitting prisms heading towards two different Earths are all going to experience their own chosen way of open contact in the next 5 years since September 2024?
Again, no. There will be some people who will not experience the idea of contact at all, if that is their path. This is few and far between, but nevertheless, it is still possible to experience no contact. But the majority of people on your planet will experience contact in one way, shape, or form.
Thank you. And this question is, will Canada become the 51st state?
Of course not.
Okay. And this person is looking for clarification. You seem adamant that we are our government, but to many there seems to be a separation. Can you clarify what you mean by this and help dissolve the illusion that we're disconnected?
You already understand it's an illusion that you're disconnected by the very way you asked the question. We say you are your government because you are responsible for the choices that you make in terms of who you install in certain places of authority. So you have to make decisions that are more in alignment and have to choose people that are more in alignment with what your general populace actually prefers. You are your government very actively because you are positioning people to represent you, even though you are also choosing many people who don't necessarily represent you, but you're still the ones choosing those people. So you have to decide how to choose people who are willing to represent what the population of your planet actually prefers.
Okay. And what cultural mechanisms, education, finance, technology, and more, are needed for everyone to live by the formula? How would this impact the isms in our culture and religion?
Again, you will find that people will move toward more of the idea of direct spirituality rather than the religious isms, as you say. The idea of following the formula will impact everything in your society because you will find that there will be paths of least resistance and easier ways, more synchronous ways of doing things. You will be inspired to create new opportunities, new circumstances, new pathways, new situations by which things can be accomplished rather than assuming that they have to be accomplished in a lot of the old-fashioned same ways that you used to. So following the formula will open up the possibilities and probabilities of how you can manage things and get things done, probably in new ways than you have ever thought of before.
And could you elaborate on one of the 5 laws? What you put out is what you get back, especially considering that it's often interpreted in our societies in a penal sense, as if you deserve the harm that you get because of something that you did wrong. Could you shed some light on this?
The idea of what you get back being reflective of what you put out is simply another way of understanding that there is no outside, that everything you do has consequences for yourself because there is no outside. So the idea is that every action that you take in some way, shape, or form will create a scenario, a circumstance, a situation, an energy, a state of being that in some way, shape, or form will eventually create a situation in your life, whether you be still alive or afterwards, that will force you to face the consequences of the choices that you made, even if that takes you all the way into life review when you leave the physical reality. There is no way to avoid any action that you take or any consequence of any action that you take because there is no outside, and especially in spirit, there is no longer any sense of separation between you and others. Therefore, everything you do, in a sense, is felt by you, experienced by you, even if initially it seemed as if it was experienced by others. So you will experience it one way, shape, or form because, again, Everything you do is happening in your own universe, is contained within your own universe. There is no outside to lose anything in.
So the idea would be everyone goes through life review, right?
Yes.
So everyone experiences the consequences and the effects of all of the things that they've done as a physical being in a particular lifetime.
Yes, it is not a punishment. It is an observation. It is a lesson. But it is unavoidable. Because just because there may seem to be a temporal delay in physical reality doesn't mean you have avoided the consequence. Doesn't mean you have avoided the experience. Everything you do becomes part of the fabric of existence in terms of information. And especially after you leave physical reality, after you expand back into spirit, there is no longer any temporal barrier to prevent you from experiencing the direct consequence of every action you have ever taken, even in physical reality. So you will be facing those consequences so that you can learn the lessons and decide for yourself what you would like to choose after that. This is inevitable and automatic for everyone. It's simply the way existence works, because there is no outside. So you cannot avoid anything, not ultimately. You may delay it temporarily in physical reality, but that's it.
So I think one time you spoke about the idea of like a soul being put on ice in a sense, or if the behavior during the physical incarnation has been especially heinous, that there is a way that you're taken through life review that is meaningful and the person can cope with what they're being shown or experiencing?
Yes, it can be handled very gently. It can even be somewhat, quote unquote, delayed temporarily, while a soul may need to rest or heal from intense trauma in physical life. But inevitably, the soul will be repaired to the point where it will then face its life review. But this will be done by the assistance of spirit guides, angelic teams, soul family. You will always have help. And when you are properly prepared, then you will be allowed to experience your life review so that you can learn the lessons and adopt the lessons to yourself so you can make decisions and choices for what you would like to do thereafter. So it doesn't mean it has to happen automatically immediately. Sometimes the soul may require a little bit of healing and rest in the afterlife before it can face the understanding of and the experiences of the life review. So it's always done in a way that will be to the most benefit of the soul.
Yes, that's good. This person's saying, we are God, consciousness, all that is. Ultimately, we are one. I understand this, yet I'm still a bit confused. If we are one, how do we also have individual souls, each with unique dreams, purposes, and missions? Our minds are also distinct. Can you elaborate on how we are both one and the individual?
This is obvious. In the same way that on Earth you may have people working together as a team and therefore have a team consciousness, a team goal, a team focus, and yet the team is made up of individuals who have their own life paths, their own desires, their own preferences, yet you have agreed to work together in a kind of a common direction. So this is not really mysterious. And again, it's not this or that, it's this and that. You are all one, but the way the one can express itself as individual souls. And individual souls, each having their own life path, enhance the ability of the one to perceive and experience itself from all these different perspectives. So just because you are individual souls doesn't mean that you're not also one. And just because you're all one doesn't mean you can't experience yourself as the one, as individual perspectives and individual souls. That's all a soul is a different perspective the one has of itself. So there are an infinite number of perspectives that the one can have, that all that is can have of itself, and each and every one of those perspectives is a conscious being, a conscious soul. That's simply the way it works because everything is consciousness. So a perspective of all that is actually equates to an autonomous individual soul. That's what you are. A perspective that all that is has of itself. And yet it doesn't take away from your autonomy, because every perspective that all that is has equates to an autonomous conscious being.
Because everything has consciousness, right?
Yes, yes. Everything is consciousness.
Yes, right. Okay, since physical reality is a reflection of our vibration, what is something most humans misunderstand about how this mirroring effect actually works? And if we are unaware of the specific beliefs creating an undesired reflection, what is the most effective way to uncover and shift them?
Well, if you have what you are perceiving as an undesired reflection, of course, depending on whether you're negatively judging the reflection or whether it's something truly out of alignment with who you are, of course, is the first question you ask yourself. The idea, again, is self-investigation. If it is truly not your preference and feels uncompatible and undesired, again, you would have to ask, by understanding how things work, what are you getting out of having this reflection? What are you learning from this reflection? How can it help you move in a different direction? So you still have to know it's there for a reason, as we have said. There are no accidents. So if it's there for a reason. What is it trying to show you? What are you learning from it? What are you holding on to that you think you need that maybe you don't need? So again, it requires deep self-investigation to find out why you would hold on to something you don't prefer, because you will always do so because you believe it benefits you. You have to understand the motivational mechanism and how it works. But that will be the beginning of the dialogue, the internal dialogue, that will help you understand why you're getting the reflection that you're getting, or perhaps why you're judging the reflection negatively that you're getting instead of using it to your advantage, since there is always a reason why everything is there.
Okay. And if physical reality is an illusion reflecting our beliefs, what belief structures create life-threatening allergic reactions, and how can one deprogram that matrix without dying in the process?
Of course, again, there may be many different reasons, as there are different people, for having allergic reactions to things. One of the most general reflections is self-rejection, and therefore that being represented by the idea of the nature that surrounds you or you find yourself in. So it has to be something that perhaps for most people needs an investigation into what parts of yourself are you rejecting. Have you learned to reject? Have you learned to judge negatively so that you don't, quote unquote, belong, so that you don't fit in, and therefore are rejected allergically by nature? Now, it can be something different as well. But again, for most people, it has to do with issues of self-rejection.
Okay, thank you. How should this person handle a behavioral secret that they have kept from their family due to differing beliefs? They have no negative feelings about their choice, and they don't intend to change them, but also know that sharing would cause their parents and their family heartbreak.
Pay attention to what we have already said and described about the idea of consequential secrets. The idea is not necessarily to reveal something, but to simply stop the behavior if it is something that, if revealed, would have detrimental effects on others, not because of their belief system according to your belief system, but because you know it would actually break a trust or confidence or have detrimental effects from something that you have established. So what we are saying is it's not about the revealing of certain secrets that are simply representative of your personal preference that are correct for you. You don't have to reveal anything that is your personal preference that's correct for how you wish to be as a person, if you know that it might be something that will upset others. Because then the idea is that this is simply in the domain of others to not necessarily choose to be upset by the choices you're making to be your true self, if that's what's happening. So we're not talking about the revealing of personal preferences that someone else might find upsetting. We're simply talking about the idea that if you're holding on to a secret that represents a behavior that you know, if revealed, would be the idea of dismantling the trust that exists between you because of what you have established with them, having to do with the circumstance and situation that you may be going against. It's about just stopping the behavior so that you don't have the secret anymore. So that if someone asks you, is this happening? Are you doing this? You can honestly say no.
And this person is saying that if everything is synchronistic and they attract the perfect lessons that they need to learn, does it make sense to, for example, wear a helmet on a motorcycle or have insurance? If they're positive, and then every experience, every disease, every injury is welcomed as a beautiful opportunity for growth. Do you still protect yourself? And is there anything like protection, as I cannot protect myself from my own reflection anyway?
This is a person who is not getting the point that is existing even within their own question. Of course you protect yourself. The idea of asking, do I need to protect myself by wearing a helmet if I ride a motorcycle, is the result of a lesson you have learned. So the idea is not to avoid those obvious things that can protect you. Stay grounded in this, stay balanced in this, and understand that the whole idea, perhaps in your society, of wearing a helmet or having insurance are the results of learning lessons to protect yourself. It's not about trying to avoid the obvious. It's not about trying to be so spiritual that I don't need to do these things. It's about understanding how things work in your reality and learning the lesson. Of course, wearing a helmet will protect you, because that is the lesson you learn if you fall down and injure your head without a helmet. So the things that you're talking about avoiding are actually the lessons you need to learn in a typical physical reality.
That's really a great understanding,
Yes. Don't be so spiritual that you forget that following the lessons of physical reality is just as spiritual as anything.
Now, this questioner is saying that her boyfriend completely refuses to believe anything that has to do with souls, UFOs, ETs. Did he and other people who think like him choose the experience of being closed-minded about these topics before incarnating on Earth? And if not, is there a way to help them wake up?
There may not be. Yes, it is a situational choice of the spirit to know that they are going into a reality where things like spirit, UFOs, ETs, the expansion of consciousness are going to become part and parcel of the expansion of humanity in this particular time frame, in this day and age. Therefore, going into the idea that they have fear about these things and refuse to acknowledge that they could be possibilities is part of their particular choices and lessons that they have chosen to learn. They may not learn it. It may be their life path to not open up to these things, but that's all right. Again, it may simply be an opportunity for them to realize that these things do exist. They're simply afraid of changing their entire worldview paradigm at this particular point because they have a belief system that says they cannot handle it or that everything would come crashing down. There's really no way to allow them to wake up to the fact that these things exist other than gentle conversation, gentle exploration, if they're willing to be exposed to it. But again, it's not necessarily your job to convince them of these things because you don't know their life path. Their life path may be to deny these things until a certain point where they will wake themselves up by putting themselves in a circumstance that is undeniable. But we'll see if that's what they have chosen. There's no way to assume that that's what they have chosen.
Now, this questioner is asking if you could clarify what you mean about a theme for this life. Do you mean what passion we choose to follow, what our main purpose is in coming here? Or do you mean what shadow aspects of our character are we going to deal with in this lifetime?
Both. It has to do, your theme, with both the passions that are representative of who you are and the letting go of the shadow side that represents who you are not. So this is why we say the greatest challenges that occur in your life are usually representative of your themes, both positive and negative. So it has to do both with being true to yourself and acting on your passion, and at the same time letting go of the things that are not who you really are, letting go of the fear-based beliefs. So it's both.
Okay. And this individual has these really interesting synchronicities. They frequently notice plumbing related signs, billboards for plumbing, trucks and vans advertising plumbing, and even times when they searched for restaurants on Yelp and they still only get plumbing services to appear. What is the synchronicity of plumbing trying to convey? Could my higher self, guides, or angels be sending me a message? And if so, what might that message be?
You might have some pipes that need to be unclogged. So it might be a way of saying you need to clear out your system perhaps both energetically and even physically. It might have things to do with your diet. It might have things to do with your health. It might have things to do simply with belief systems that you need to let go of to clean out your pipes, so to speak.
Great. Could you help this person bring more understanding to the concept of money? For them, it feels very abstract. When they receive other forms of abundance, money seems more complicated for them to receive. And they experience a paradox where personally they don't need money, but at the same time they need it to pay off debts, live comfortably, and be financially independent.
All right, well, this is the opposite of what is typical for many people, in the sense that most are focused on money at the expense of the other forms of abundance, whereas this person is expressing the opposite. They're okay with all the other forms of abundance, but they have issues around money, and therefore they're not actually allowing money to be equal to the other forms in much the same way, but in the opposite sense, that most people are understanding that they have a focus on money, but are not allowing the other forms of abundance to be equal to money. In this case, this person is not allowing money to be equal to the other forms of abundance. So they're going about it in the opposite way from most people. They have to allow money to be just as valid, just as equal, just as easily attracted when necessary as any other form of abundance that they find they are easily able to attract. So it's about getting into an understanding of why they may have a specific relationship with that particular form or expression of exchange or abundance on your planet that somehow makes it stand out more differently than any other form of abundance that we've talked about that they may find more ease with.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And this person is saying they're passionate about self-expression, self-exploration, personal development, and growth. And reading and discovering new knowledge like what you offer is something they truly love. And this journey has been their way of understanding why they've felt so unhappy for so long. Thinking about my path, I realize I'm passionate about sharing what I learn with others. I want to start coaching to help people discover themselves and break free from feeling stuck. But what holds them back is this feeling that despite all the coaching and permission slips they've encountered, they still feel stuck and haven't found lasting joy. How can they support the idea of coaching when it hasn't fully worked for themselves?
You will learn what you need by actually taking the action of coaching. You learn by doing. You learn by experience. You will grow. You will gain insights. but you have to start the actions. This is of paramount importance and why we say you have to act on your passion. It's the action, the physical action, that will bring you more information, bring you understanding, bring you inspiration, bring you what you need to help others as well. So you have to start taking the action. If you don't have the actions, you're not going to gain more experience. You're not going to gain more knowledge. You're not going to gain more ability to help others if you don't help yourself by actually taking the actions to help others too. That's how you learn. You help them, you help yourself.
Is feeling stuck also a form of procrastination?
It can be. So again, it may be, oh, I'm not worthy yet. I'm not capable of sharing anything yet. It may be self-judgment. It may be many things. And therefore, you are not taking the actions. You are waiting. You are procrastinating, using it as an excuse because you don't think that what you have to give already is worthwhile. So yes, it can be a form of procrastination.
So the idea of taking action in some form in that direction can eventually help you break through whatever barriers to understanding your issue is.
This is why we sometimes say if you feel stuck, go and volunteer to help people in some way, shape, or form other than what you would typically do. It will get you out of your head. It will get you out of yourself in a good way. You will start to learn things and then perhaps can transfer those lessons by volunteering for something other than what you would typically do that will then be transferable to what it is you are truly passionate about. So one way or another, the actions you take to help others in some situation, whether immediately representative of your passion or not, can unstick you by putting you in an unexpected situation where you're being of assistance and being of help to others. It can transfer to what you actually ultimately would prefer and are passionate about doing. Just take the action. That's the most important thing. So if you can't take the action in the direction of what you know you're passionate is about, go and volunteer for something unexpected, helping people, feeding people, clothing people, reading to people, building houses for people, whatever it takes, volunteer to help, and you will find yourself getting unstuck not only in the idea of the actions you take in your volunteer work, but also getting unstuck in the direction of your passion as well.
And does the idea of chaos, when it arises in physical reality, also provide an opportunity to be unstuck?
It can, because it turns everything upside down. Everything is unexpected. And when everything is unexpected, then all bets are off, as you say. That means anything could happen. And you can take advantage of that stream. You can take advantage of that momentum. Anything can happen, including the things that are representative of you acting on your passion. So by all means, you can take advantage of things loosening up in a positive way. And that's, again, the importance of staying in a positive state so that no matter what happens and no matter how chaotic something may seem, you will get the advantage of using chaos to your benefit because now all bets are off and anything can happen to your advantage.
And in line with that idea of history repeating itself, and like you were saying about protection, things we've learned.
Yes.
How does that factor into the idea of things being chaotic and still allowing for the idea of learning from history?
History, as you say, repeating itself is simply another way of saying you're always given another chance to change things in a way that you would prefer to. If you haven't learned the lessons will always come back until you no longer need them. So when you decide to use the repetitions in your history, the cycles in your history, to actually learn the lessons of how to do things differently, this is what we were talking about before, about the pendulum swing to the extremes. Until you learn the lesson to stay balanced in the center, the same lessons will always come back. The same opportunities to learn the lessons will always come back. Earth is a planet of cycles, and this is one of the cycles. You're always given another opportunity to learn the lesson. When you learn it, you end the cycle.
Thank you. This person is saying that They're saying, I am 55 years old and nearing retirement and believe I have followed my passion and synchronicity. Why am I discovering Bashar only now? What is my higher mind trying to tell me? What's next?
You are discovering this information now because now is the timing for it. Now is when you're ready for it. Now you can implement it, especially if you are retiring. Now you are free to implement whatever you wish that is representative of your passion, even more so. And therefore, there may be value in some of the information we are sharing with you to allow you the opportunity to do this now that you have timed the finding of this information with the idea of freeing up your time schedule.
Great. Is it possible for a human that has only ever known conditional love to experience and express and feel unconditional love for another or for themselves?
Of course it is. Again, the idea is you go through a process of removing the conditions on that love. It doesn't mean that you suddenly accept things that are not vibrationally compatible for yourself. It doesn't mean that you condone those things that you know you don't prefer. It simply means you have more compassion and understanding that someone is going through a process on their own path, just like you would for a child who hasn't learned everything yet. And therefore you have compassion and love for them to see that they are on a path of learning, on a path that they have chosen to develop themselves, expand themselves, learn their lessons. And therefore you can love them and support them in the doing of that thing without necessarily condoning the negative belief systems or fear-based actions that they may take on their journey. You can help them understand how to make better choices, more positive choices.
And the next question is, I've heard you say that negative beliefs will do everything in their power, including hiding themselves.
Yes.
Will you please say more about this?
Well, again, you have to understand that negative beliefs will use denial to make it seem as if there's nothing to look for. So they use denial because a person that is in denial is also in denial that they're in denial. And therefore it forms kind of a double protective layer for the negative belief that you don't even think there's anything to go looking for. You don't even start exploring. So that's how it uses the idea of denial to hide itself by creating this sort of double barrier, this double shell. Because someone can recognize they may be in denial of something and refuse to face it, but then the negative belief can also make it seem as if there's nothing to look for, that they're in denial of being in denial. So it can be a very powerful filter to break through. But again, if you understand that this is how beliefs, and especially negative beliefs, work, then you can always go exploring to see if you are in fact in denial about being in denial about something.
And the next question is, if you've survived years of sexual abuse at a young age and want to help others heal, but the perpetrator denies everything, how can you be of service when you cannot openly share your own experience?
You can openly share your own experience. You don't necessarily have to name the perpetrator. You can simply use what was done as a general example in order to illustrate the points that you are making to help others. So you can use it as general examples of your experience without necessarily pointing a finger at a specific person who may be in denial of their actions.
And next question. How do I live a life where I am aware of the negative but only experience the positive? How does that work exactly? And what will it look like?
Again, you can be aware that there will always be an opportunity to choose the negative, but you have to get to a point where you realize it makes no sense to do so. You have to understand very deeply and very clearly and very precisely how things work, how you create your reality, and why you would ever create a reason to choose the negative idea, the fear-based idea. And again, remembering the formula and the fourth step of remaining in a positive state no matter what happens is what will allow you to transform any experience, even ones you don't prefer, ones that are out of alignment with who you choose to be. It'll allow you to transform them and get a benefit from them no matter what they are. So the idea is to, again, to understand how this all works and to use it precisely. And then you can recognize there will always be the opportunity to choose something negative, but it will simply no longer make any sense for you to do so. You will never react even to something that you don't prefer in a negative way. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So no one is saying that something may not manifest ever again that you don't prefer. That's not what we're saying. It doesn't mean those things can't manifest. It simply means, what are you going to do if it does? Are you going to stay in a positive state so you can get a benefit from it? Or are you going to react negatively to it as if something is wrong just because it manifested? You're always given an opportunity to learn a lesson from something. So don't go by what it is, go by what you do with what it is.
Perfect, because that just answered the next question. So I will move on.
All right.
Discernment, how can we best differentiate which information is coming from our physical mind and which is coming from our higher mind? It's not always clear.
Well, it depends on what kind of information you're talking about. You know, when you're honest with yourself, the difference between excitement and anxiety, whether it comes from your physical mind or your higher mind. So again, you just have to be discerning about, does the information, no matter where it's coming from, actually benefit you in some way, shape, or form? Or does it seek to limit and control you in a negative way? It doesn't matter where it comes from. Your own physical mind is capable of giving you information that's beneficial for you. You don't have to assume that the physical mind will always be trying to knock you down. So it doesn't really matter where it comes from, as long as you believe that the information, regardless of its source, is beneficial for your growth and learning lessons so you can advance and expand and move on.
And the next question is, do ETs possess universal communicators to interact with humans who speak different languages? In most ET encounters reported, the beings appear to speak the native language without the assistance of an electronic device. So what methods are they using to translate human language, or do most ET beings learn human languages at some points?
It's all of the above. There are cultures that have technology that allow them to have universal translators. A lot of ETs simply communicate telepathically and therefore need no device at all. And some ETs actually do learn human languages. So it just depends on the extraterrestrial and what they prefer to do or what they have access to. It can be any or all of the above, depending upon the species.
Pretty exciting.
All right, if you say so.
Do spirits ever try to do things and get attention of the living through things like starting, this person is saying, for example, could my dead mother, arrange to have a song start playing on the radio when I walk into a store?
Absolutely. Spirits will do things like this all the time to get the attention of the living. As we have often said, they will use what's already in your reality synchronistically in order to deliver messages most of the time, because that's the easiest way to do it, because the information is already in your reality. And it doesn't take much to cause a certain thing to happen, especially with electronics, that can then get your attention and make you think of them to put you in touch with the fact that they may be sending you a message. So yes, spirit guides will do this quite often.
So the idea that some people may suffer from something like schizophrenia, where they are watching television and suddenly they believe the television is talking specifically to them, versus an individual who consciously makes the decision to shift into a different state where they can receive the information that's coming through the television, so to speak, in a personal way.
Yes.
And
One can be an out of balanced mental state. The other can be a balanced mental state.
so if you find something like that happening where you're getting communication through something like television or radio, the idea is to remain in a positive state and recognize that it may be a momentary communication per se, but
Yes.
not in a way that is unhealthy in that sense.
Yes, of course. It usually won't be that someone thinks that the television character is actually speaking to them directly, as if they were an autonomous being. It will be more like the person recognizes that something in what is being transmitted has personal meaning for them, and that the timing of the delivery of that has something to do beyond the idea of what's actually playing on the television. The characters on the television don't become the primary style of communication. It's simply something that is used from a being that is not necessarily displayed on the television.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yes.
Now, as open contact progresses and humanity evolves, will we someday be able to connect with people in spirit as easily as it is for us to call someone who's still alive on the telephone?
Yes. We do it all the time in my society.
Can we have Zoom calls with the deceased?
Well, you don't need the Zoom to do it. Eventually, you'll be able to simply perceive them and communicate with them, again, on a telepathic level.
And what's the time frame for that to happen?
Depends on the individual. Obviously, there are individuals who can do that now. You usually refer to them as sensitive or psychics. But for the majority of your society to have this ability, probably within the next 100 of your years.
Very interesting. And when we leave physical Earth, do we retain only our level of consciousness after death? What happens to the mind? No book or source seems to explain what occurs with the mind after death.
Well, the physical mind is the product of belief systems that are no longer relevant when you're a spirit, but you retain the experience that the physical mind had in much the same way that you retain memories of childhood even though you're no longer a child. So the idea is the experience you had as a physical being with a physical mind is always retained as a part of you. It will always be a part of you when you go back into spirit, because you need to learn from it. You need to add it to the overall information that helps you make decisions as to what to do next. So you will never lose the experience or the memories of the experience, so to speak, but you will not necessarily have a physical mind in the same way that is determined by the belief systems that create the physical mind. You will be above and beyond that. You will have your own identity. You will recognize yourself, but in a different way.
And is it possible to keep shifting into realities where a loved one is alive, even though they're dead in other realities?
It's a rare thing and usually not necessary, because there are lessons to be had, especially in this day and age, about someone no longer physically being in your reality. I wouldn't say it's an impossibility, but it's an improbability for most people, because it's simply not the way most life paths are designed on your planet at this time.
And how do you distinguish between advanced virtual reality simulations and tapping directly into parallel realities? Does your civilization engage with virtual realities?
Well, yes, but at a certain point, there's absolutely no distinction or difference between what you may perceive as a virtual reality and a parallel reality, since the simulation idea, the holographic idea, is a projection of consciousness anyway from all of you. You're creating your own virtual reality every day. So ultimately, you get to a point where there really isn't much difference between the idea of a parallel reality and a virtual reality.
Okay, and this person is asking, they say they were on the timeline for the female to win the election, but and they had turned into joy and creativity. What happened? Now they're affected by a new administration in the timeline. And why is that? It feels like there is no glass wall between the person and the reality they're now experiencing, even though they don't prefer it.
Drop your expectations and insistences. This goes back to the first conversation we had about keeping in the state of being of what you prefer in the midst of perceiving the chaos, so you can be of assistance by maintaining the preferred vibration while the chaos is going along, because that's what's going to allow the momentum to ultimately bring the chaos back down to center. So it's not about being in the wrong reality. It's about staying in the preferred state that represents the outcome you would have preferred, and staying in that state will help with the idea ultimately of getting people to the point where they will ultimately tire of all the chaos, and then you can be of some assistance in helping bring that energy back toward the center instead of going to the other extreme.
And since the one is the all and the all are the one, does that mean that each one of us is exploring everything infinitely? We just are not aware of doing that as individuals.
Well, yes, of course, there are many different levels and aspects to your consciousness that are exploring everything simultaneously. But this idea, this level you call physical reality, and this individual personality, by definition, is exploring a particular life path that prevents you from experiencing a lot of the other things that the larger versions of you, so to speak, are also doing, because it's not relevant for the life path you wish to experience as a physical individual in this reality.
Next question about signs, synchronicities, numbers, and stuff. Are these kinds of things always messages from our guides or our higher self, or can they just be reflections of our own limiting belief and not so much guidance as reflections of our fears and limitations?
It can be either, but again, it depends upon what the symbols mean to you. You can use them in a positive or a negative way. You can say, I keep seeing this, and therefore it's reflective of the fact that I'm focusing on this particular negative belief. Or you can also say, I keep seeing this, and it's reflective of the fact that I'm focusing on a particular positive belief. It depends on how you use it. Synchronicity itself is relatively neutral. It depends on how you use it and what it means to you, what it reflects to you.
So the idea that you could get excited about any synchronicity allows it to be a trigger for being in a positive state, because suddenly you recognize that everything is one, everything is orchestrated in some way.
Yes. And it brings your attention to what you need to pay attention to, whether positive or negative beliefs within yourself.
Now, this person is saying that they find themselves attached to their desires, following the excitement, but instead of trusting and releasing them, they attach to them, try to control them. As you know, this doesn't work very well for them. So how can they reach new levels of trust and allow themselves to surrender?
Well, again, you have to stop thinking that your physical mind knows what's best all the time. It doesn't. You have to understand that holding on to a particular outcome, insisting on a particular outcome, is a limitation on what could possibly happen that would be even better. So you have to give up the idea that your physical mind knows what the ideal outcome absolutely always should be. You have to let go and let yourself know that you're imposing limitations on yourself that you don't need to impose. Even though it may seem as if I'm controlling this to make sure it comes out to be the best, that's the opposite of what you're doing by insisting on a particular outcome. You're actually limiting yourself from experiencing what you could be experiencing. So when that finally sinks in, you'll stop doing it. Unless you really prefer to keep limiting yourself. That's okay, if that's your path. But I think you sound like you're tired of it.
You have said that the soul is driving the car and the ego has a wheel that is not connected to anything.
I didn't
You've
say that.
also
I didn't
okay.
say that.
All right. Well, then
Again,
this
the
question is
ego serves
probably
the
not
purpose.
very good.
The ego serves the purpose of allowing you to experience physical reality in a clear and precise way. But that's its job. It doesn't mean it's not connected to anything. It simply means it's not supposed to be steering the car to where you wish to go. It's just supposed to help you see where it is that the car has gone after you have steered it with the idea of acting on your passion, which is following the directions of your higher mind.
And this last sentence in their question was, you will discuss that you've said you will discover that you have been in control this whole time.
From the higher level, yes.
So that analogy of driving the car versus realizing that at another level you're in control. So it's not that you're in control per se at this level, except for how you respond to everything that happens.
Exactly. You are in control of your reactions and responses. You have the free will to decide how you will experience the idea of the life path that you have laid out from a higher level.
And this person had a huge awakening journey and found integration back into 3D world of Earth very difficult. They felt very lonely walking their path. Any advice for that?
The whole idea when you have a higher level vibrational experience is to bring that down to earth, not feel that you are missing something, but that you have been given a great and beautiful opportunity to know what that vibration can be like when you bring it down to earth through the actions of serving humanity by following your passion. So it's not there to make you feel alone. It's there to make you realize you are all one, and to bring that vibration and the opportunity to experience that high vibration to others as well through the work that you do in service to humanity by acting on your passion.
Okay. And is life more like a single player or a multi-player game? Is free will also orchestrated?
Your free will is your free will in terms of the freedom to, within the overall agreement, the collective agreement, the freedom to be the individual that you chose to be, the freedom to learn the lessons that you chose to learn in whatever way you wish to, or ignoring them completely. So you have a great degree of freedom within the game, within the rules you have agreed to play, and there are individual levels of agreement as well as collective levels of agreement. So again, we use the analogy of a game of chess. You have agreed to a play by the rules of chess, but the strategy you use is up to your free will. The kind of pieces you use and what they're made of is up to your free will. But you have to follow the rules of chess, otherwise you're not playing by the rules of chess. You're playing a different game. So yes, there are collective agreements, but you have a great degree of freedom within that to be yourself in how you play the game. Play fast, play slow, play openly, play sneaky. It's up to you.
Next question. Are we and our loved ones really all our own unique souls that continue to exist in spirit after death? Or is it just like waves disappearing back into the ocean, so to speak?
You all still exist. You always will still exist, even though you know you belong to a greater ocean. So the drops in the ocean never disappear, even though they know that they are drops in the ocean. They are still drops. Remember, it's this and that, not this or that, not one or the other. It's both.
And can a place where you live in not want you there anymore?
No. You can make it seem as if it doesn't want you by amping your vibes to the point where you color the vibration of the location to push you out of it because you're the one that doesn't want to be there anymore. And you're simply projecting that on the location to make it seem as if the location is pushing you out, but you're the one doing it. So a location can become vibrationally incompatible to you, but that doesn't mean it wants you to leave. It's simply reflecting what you're giving off, that you want yourself to move.
And what role will Bashar and Darryl have post 2030? Will Darryl ever finally get to meet you face to face?
Yes, and that's all we will say about that at this time.
Okay. And how old are you for this particular transmission?
Somewhere between 137 and 157, depending upon the question.
And do you stay in your ship above Sedona, or do you go back and forth to Essassani, or are you able to be in two places at once?
It's not so much being in two places at once, but I'm able to go back and forth without you necessarily noticing, because time for me is not what it is for you.
And you never sleep, right?
No.
But you rest.
We can rest.
Or when you're in a state of repose, is that a state of resting?
Kind of. Or a state of activity in a different way, on a different level.
So that is one piece of furniture that we would see in spaceships, chairs?
When they are necessary, they will extrude from the floor. When they're no longer necessary, they will dissolve back into the floor or the wall. At least in our ships.
And your demeanor translates through the channel in tone of voice, facial expressions, and physical gestures. However, when you laugh, your laughter does not translate through the channel, and you will tell us, one moment we are laughing. I'm just curious about why your laughter does not translate through the channel. Can you explain?
Yes, we have explained this before. Perhaps you have missed it. But a full body laugh will disconnect us from the channel, because the channel will then withdraw within himself, because laughter is very centralizing. And therefore, in a sense, it will wake the channel up.
Do members of your species ever get the giggles?
We laugh a lot.
And are we your favorite laughter stimulator?
Certainly you are one of them.
What other things do you encounter that
That's
make you laugh?
enough for now.
Okay. How are the hybrid children birthed? Are they physically carried like human fetuses? And how is the human DNA connected to create hybrid children?
I believe that many of you already understand that sometimes the fetus can be carried for a small length of time by the human female and then removed and placed in what you might call a maturation chamber, taken to full term from DNA that was collected and harvested in what you typically refer to as the abduction phenomenology.
And will some forces of nature change on planet Earth upon open contact? For example, will the regions of the poles become less magnetic, or will gravity even become lighter?
These things have absolutely nothing at all to do with open contact. No.
Okay, and one second here. Seem to want to move. Can you elaborate more on the hive mind spectrum that different civilizations choose? Like, what is the difference in a negative hive mind spectrum that the Greys adopted from a positive hive mind spectrum where we are headed towards?
Who says that the Greys are exhibiting a negative hive mind? This is a misunderstanding. If you mean that they adopted the idea of the hive mind because of certain other negative activities, and therefore the hive mind is what they needed to do to save themselves, that's a different issue if that's what you mean. We will
And
not necessarily address further details of this right now. It will go into too lengthy of an explanation.
Okay. And is there such a thing as star seeds?
Yes, of course, but star seeds are simply each and every single one of you who understands that you are here by choice participating in the evolution of humanity. So you're all star seeds in that context.
Okay. And some teachings talk about how this world is totally neutral or doesn't have inherent meaning, and that we are the ones that give it meaning with our thoughts and beliefs. But you've also seen things in this world that have their own properties too, like some foods seem to be healthy, some substances seem to do certain things, etc. Can you help clarify this? Is everything neutral outside of our perception, or do things have their own vibrations and properties only?
When things seem to have their own built-in meanings, it's because of the collective agreement, so you don't have to think about it. It doesn't mean that it always works for every individual. There can be some exceptions depending on your life path. But those things that seem kind of automatically built in are simply usually the result of the collective agreement, so that you don't have to always think about it. So things that you have collectively said, well, this is generally a healthy thing to do, are simply put there by the collective. So again, you don't have to constantly reinforce that idea. You simply accept it as a given for most people on your planet. You also know that there can be exceptions depending upon what a person has chosen for their individual life path. So it just depends. But yes, it's all neutral to begin with, and the collective agreement may make some things seem to have built-in meaning, but that's just because of the collective agreement. They can be superseded by some people if that's part of their life path to do so.
Okay. And is there a cosmic battle going on between negative ETs and good ETs?
No.
Okay. And I guess I'll find the last question here. This person is asking about time and progression. From what they understand, it can take hundreds, if not thousands of years to progress from one density to the next. If we are all timeless beings, how is it that some beings like yourself have evolved so much farther than us? Is existence one endless loop that once we become one with Source, again, we start all over?
It's not quite the way that you're depicting this. And again, remember, you experience time by definition in physical reality to experience growth and expansion in a certain way. And certain cycles can make things take a long time depending upon the processes that are necessary in which a group of individual souls has decided to band together to evolve. We have had a head start. We are a physical race that is artificial and therefore have been given a head start, which is why we are more advanced than you are. We didn't start from scratch, so to speak, in the way that our souls progress. But the idea in general is that, yes, you're timeless beings, but not in terms of physical beings. In physicality, you experience time, and therefore, in time, you experience evolution, and therefore, you experience cycles and timing and things like that. You are only timeless when you're non-physical.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for all this information. I hope everyone found it beneficial and expansive, and we really appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure and our deep appreciation and unconditional love to all of you. Allow yourselves now to move forward and become relaxed. Enjoy. Now we would ask that you all allow yourselves to breathe deeply, to let go of the cares of the day, and to become relaxed. Continue to breathe. Allow yourselves, with whatever device you may wish to impose visually or auditorily upon your meditation, to simply drift and open up your imagination and your mind. Allow yourself to begin to picture an unformed volume or expanse that would contain energy that can be perceived by you in any way, shape, or form that makes sense. It can be seen to be a field of atoms, dots, or just a flow of diaphanous energy or light, however you wish to visualize this, but allow it to be something amorphous, something homogeneous, something unformed, like you're looking at a body of water that's just ebbing and flowing, so that you experience the idea of what you would typically refer to as a chaotic volume, a chaotic reality, a chaotic realm, where there is seemingly no structure. It's just seemingly open. There's an ebb and a flow, but there seems to be randomness, no pattern to it. Just things happening. No rhyme, no reason. Just ebbing and flowing in all directions, no directions, back and forth, up and down, unexpectedly, no pattern to the timing at all. Just random fluctuations in a variety of ways, whatever your imagination so desires. As you picture this in your imagination, allow yourselves to begin very gently, very slowly, to see little moments here and there that seem to take on a different quality, that seem to coalesce. They may start to coalesce, become a little more structured, a little more solid, and they may disappear again. That's all right. But bit by bit, everything starts to take on a more structured form, like liquid beginning to cool and form a crystal, like a snowflake. So you have water, you have gas, seemingly random and chaotic, cooling to the idea of liquid water, still somewhat amorphous, but a little bit more dense, and then cooling even further into crystalline patterns like snowflakes, so that you can understand the underlying structure that exists when the vibrational frequency of a substance changes. It is similar to the idea of events that exist in human experience, in all experiences, that may seem chaotic, may seem random, may seem to have no rhyme or reason, no logic at all, irrational in the extreme. And yet, by adding the energy of cooling down, of maintaining that neutral and positive state that imposes upon it an understanding, an incorporation, an allowance of all that is happening. Not a rejection. Even though there may be a recognition of what you do and don't prefer, it's not an invalidation, it's not a rejection. It's an inclusion that takes it all in and begins to compress it slightly, hold it close, cool it down, and start to see it. Little crystals emerging here and there, and they may vanish for a while, and you can bring them back down and allow yourself to see the patterns starting to form, the underlying structure starting to take shape, where rationality, reason, understanding, and knowledge come back into form, to form a pathway, an arrow pointing to the path that will guide humanity, a structure like a snowflake, reaching out, branching out, and connecting to the different things that represent all that humanity has on its path, that represents connections to things that allow you to experience your true self-empowerment, your true self, your joy, your love. All the things that allow you to be your true self. So as you experience what may appear to be chaos in your reality, cool it down. See the underlying patterns. Because as we have said, even something manifesting that you don't prefer gives you a clearer idea by contrast what you do prefer. And that recognition, that vision is the process by which you then reveal the underlying structure, to cool everything down, to crystallize the chaos into a form that is beautiful and branching and connecting to everything humanity needs to evolve and move forward in a positive and beneficial way for all. It may seem that these things have nothing to do with one another, but it's all interconnected. It is the chaos game, and there is an underlying structure. Allow yourselves to remain in that neutral space that is the energy that will cool it down into a pattern that will allow you to feel the freedom that will allow you to move forward on your evolutionary path. Continue to breathe this in and cool it down. With every exhalation, it becomes cooler and cooler and cooler. Don't worry about the time it takes. There is a timing to all of this. Just stay in that state and just exude coolness. Cool it down, crystallize it, see through the chaos to the underlying structure that you know is there. You know is there. It will sort itself out. It will sort itself out. I remind you, without discussion and without explanation, I remind you of what our oracle told you. The dark night of the soul brings forth the light from within. And when the light of truth comes forth, the blind shall see once again. The light of truth crystallizes and allows you to see the underlying structure. Know that it is there. Seek it out.